Dave's my bodyguard. Well, we'll get this rolling right now before Dave shows up. My name's Dwayne Justice. I'm the state coordinator for Beta North Idaho. First of all, can you all hear?
Yeah.
If you can't hear, move closer. I can only talk so loud. What? No, move closer. First of all, we have a few guests here today. We've got Leslie Duncan. She is a candidate for Kootenai County Commission seat. We've got Deputy Josh Layett with Kootenai County Sheriff's Department. Wow, you're a star. Dave Kazel is here somewhere. He's our MRF rep. MRF is a Motorcycle Riders Foundation. That is your national lobbying group in Washington, D.C. And Heather Scott, representative out of District 1A, out of Blanchard, is that correct? Monroe County. I'll let you say that when you get up there. First of all, I want to thank everybody that's here from ANI, that's Abate of North Idaho, ASI, Abate of South Idaho. There's some people from Abate of Washington. Here's my, okay, this is my bodyguard. I'm in trouble, right? Come on, okay. And all the clubs, organizations, and MCs that showed up. This is all done by you guys. This is Facebook, all of it. And you're showing here that on a Monday, you're proving that how serious you're taking this issue with distracted driving, inattentive driving, because we're getting killed out there. We've had a rash of accidents the last 2 months between eastern Washington and North Idaho, and you're here to make a statement today. We've got news here, we're filming this, and you guys are awesome. This is unbelievable. I was laying in bed last night, waking up every half hour going, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But you guys are proving this is pretty cool. So, just to get things going, we're going to have Leslie Duncan speak real quick, and then Deputy Josh will talk, Dave, and then Heather. So, we're going to have Leslie speak first. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out here for this very important subject that we all deal with, whether we're in 4 wheels or on 2 wheels. I think personal responsibility has really taken a backseat in our society, and I think that we need to start talking to our friends and our neighbors and reminding them, hey, no text is worth somebody's life. And while we're surrounded in a cage driving down the road, I think we feel pretty safe, like, well, you know, nothing's going to happen to me if I'm in an accident. Well, that doesn't help us on 2-wheelers. So I'd like to really have a campaign going to remind people no text is worth somebody's life. When people start to understand that manslaughter and unlawful killing, even when you're doing something lawful, is who wants to live with that the rest of their life? So I really think that it's our job as motorcyclists to continue to tell our friends, family, and neighbors, whether it be social media, in person, at barbecues, to remind them texting is not worth it. Inattentive driving, distracted driving, whatever you're doing, playing with the radio, whatever drivers are doing on their phone, off their phone, I think it's super important that they remember operating a vehicle, especially at high speeds, is a big responsibility. And I think it's important that they understand every single time they get behind the wheel, there could be a 2-wheeler somewhere close who is relying on them for protection, as well as us on 2 wheels have our own responsibility. And I know my husband and I ride as if we are invisible, always making sure that we're in no one's blind spot, always making sure that we get out of other people's way, and paying attention to who is paying attention and who isn't, and removing ourselves from that situation. It's not always possible. On the way here, the winds were really bad, and I am in between 2 semis. I mean, there was nothing I could do to get around it. I could have pulled over, I guess, and waited, but in general, sometimes we don't have a choice when we're riding. So I think the more we can get people to understand their responsibility when they get behind the wheel, I think the safer that we're going to be in the long run. Especially teaching our kids. We teach our children, when you're in the car, there is no text, there is no phone call worth somebody's life. Just put the phone down. If you're only driving for 15 minutes, the world can wait for you for 15 minutes. Wait until you're parked, until you're safe. So I thank you guys for coming out here today, for rallying together for this very important issue. I'd like to see no more lives lost this year on two wheels or in four wheels. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Leslie. And Deputy Josh Lake, you're up.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm Deputy Lake with the Sheriff's Office. Just a little bit about myself. I've been with the Sheriff's Office just over 9 years. Just a couple days ago, it's my 9-year anniversary. Been in patrol ever since then. Currently, I serve in a capacity as the Traffic Investigations Unit on patrol. That's where I'm wearing the monkey suit right now. But predominantly what my job is to enforce the laws of the state of Idaho on Kootenai County roadways. Contract cities and out in the unincorporated county. And as a part of that, I serve as an accident reconstructionist and a drug recognition expert. Basically, I'm the really fancy DUI cop that if you're high on meth or marijuana, they call me. The other piece of what I do is, as an accident reconstructionist, I go out to the collision scenes where we have a serious injury or fatal collision inside this county. That means when I'm at home in my fuzzy bunny slippers, watching TV, Cheetos, I carry a pager. Of course, we have a train going. I carry a pager, so as I'm relaxing, I'll get paged out 2, 3 in the morning and respond to the unfortunate scene of a fatal collision. And as you know, and I can have special appreciation for this because I ride a Harley as well in my personal time, a lot of these scenes are with motorcycles. Because it was Leslie, correct? As Leslie had mentioned, everyone else is in a four-wheeler with a steel cage around them. On a motorcycle, you're not so lucky. So, unfortunately, the motorcyclist is typically the one who gets killed, even though it may not be their fault. What I want to talk to you today is basically Idaho Code, reference distracted and inattentive driving, and talk about some of the issues related to that. Man, we're really getting rained on here, so if you want to move back underneath the awning there, I'll give you a second. So I don't want to get too much into the codes, but I want to give you the general sum of what they are and how we with law enforcement can deal with some of the issues that you're facing out there. We have several codes. First of all, there's reckless driving, which is driving in a manner likely to endanger persons or property. Now, yeah, it sounds like I have that memorized because I do, and that's pretty much what the code says. But there's also some other words in there that describe that violation, and that's careless, heedless, imprudent, wanton, reckless. They even have reckless inside the reckless driving code. So how do we articulate that when we are contacting somebody for swerving off the road and hitting a tree or running into a motorcyclist, that's driving next to them and they weren't paying attention? Well, we look at the average motoring public and what everyone else should be out there doing, paying attention to eyes forward, scanning, head checks, etc. Everything they taught you in driver's ed. And if that person was failing to do that, then we can start to articulate reckless driving or inattentive driving. Reckless is the primary, inattentive is a lesser included of that. They're both misdemeanors, they're both arrestable even though we don't see them happen. In other words, they are arrestable outside of our presence. So reckless driving carries with it a 6-month jail sentence and up to a $1,000 fine. Inattentive driving is also a misdemeanor, carries up to a $300 fine and could be some jail time. If you get a second reckless, you can see 2 years. Sorry, we're really getting rained on here, so I don't want to continue to move back. Can everyone still hear me? Okay, right on. So we have reckless and inattentive, which could cover any crash, right? All we have to articulate is that you drove in a manner likely to endanger somebody or something. Most of the crashes we go to, we could write everyone for inattentive or reckless because they endangered someone's property or endangered somebody's person. Most of the time, we just write them for speeding or failing to run, yield to a stop sign or whatever the case may be. As far as distracted driving, we also have a texting while driving violation, which is simply an infraction. It's less than a speeding ticket. So if you're going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, you get a $90 fine. If you're texting, you get an $81.50 fine. Yet what we're seeing is that texting while driving is beating DUI by about 9%. It's causing about 9% more fatalities than even drunk driving. So, by the numbers, technically you're a safer driver when you're impaired by alcohol or drugs than when you're on your phone. And you can kind of start to see why. Because at least a drunk driver knows, hey, there's a cop following me, and I just left the bar, right? Where the texter has just thrown all caution to the wind, and they're looking at their phone, touch screen, whatever the case may be. So it's really kind of a struggle that we have. If somebody crashes into you while you're on your motorcycle, we could cite them for an infraction of failing to maintain the lane of travel, or we could charge as high as reckless driving and actually arrest the person. So that's kind of what we have in Idaho. Now you'll find this really interesting. Let's say, for example, unfortunately there's a motorcycle crash where somebody dies. And the root cause of that was somebody was texting while they were driving. Well, that in and of itself, okay, they drove in a manner likely to endanger persons or property. It would be likely inattentive. It's careless or imprudent. So you have a misdemeanor, and then you have a fatality. Well, surprisingly, Idaho Code has misdemeanor vehicular homicide. So it's not even a felony to kill someone, right? So it's kind of an interesting dynamic that Idaho Code has, some of these intricacies. But certainly if you're driving drunk, or you were going 90 in a 20, and then you killed somebody, then it would be reckless, and that gross negligence would account for a felony, and then you could actually go to prison for it. Whereas there are some cases, unfortunately due to Idaho Code, that you kill someone and you might only get charged with a misdemeanor. I myself have investigated one of those cases, and it was the strangest thing. It said they killed someone, how are they not being charged with a felony? It was really weird. But that's kind of what we face on the Idaho Code side. Let me just double check my notes. I want to make sure I cover everything here. Some of the issue also that we start to see is how it's prosecuted. So what you might see is, things being fled down, or, hey, the community's really upset about this, or, the family's had enough, we're not going to charge the person with this, and that sort of thing. So it's kind of what we see in law enforcement, we observe and report, right? RoboCop, right? We type it up, we send it to the prosecutor's office, but what happens downtown is a little different than what actually occurred on the scene. And I get it, they're just doing their job. What you have to understand from our perspective is that we know the code and we're going to charge likely as high as possible because that's what happened on the scene, but it may get fled down. And so what we're looking for from the citizens is just to kind of partner and share in our message of, hey, look, if you're out there and you're going to hurt somebody, we're going to prosecute that, and the community's not going to take it. We're not going to put up with somebody killing their friends and family and loved one. It's my worst nightmare when I have to knock on a door at 2 o'clock in the morning and tell a mom or husband, wife, whatever the case may be, that their loved one is gone because of a motor vehicle crash. I've been in patrol almost 9 years, and what I've found is that a lot of the crimes that occur, driver, you have to pay attention. Act like everyone out there wants to run you over on purpose because they just don't see you. And that's where some of the safety equipment comes in, your reflective vest. Or if you don't like the orange or yellow, get a really chromed out, shiny helmet that flashes with the light, and people start to see, you become more visible. And observe and report. If you see somebody who's driving crazy, call us. You know, maybe we don't arrest them, maybe we don't take them to jail, maybe they don't even get a ticket, but at least we can contact them and say, hey, look, you know, you're driving crazy. We have multiple witnesses. Knock it off, and then their name goes into our file, and then we can follow up with them and see if they're honest, minding their P's and Q's. That's kind of what we would ask for you, is just to reach out and be the eyes for us on the road. We're not asking you to tattle on your neighbors. What we're asking you to do is try to slow somebody down who might later kill somebody. You never know the interaction or the effect that your simple report may have had on that person. So that's what I would ask for you. If you have any questions on me, you can come to me after the presentation. Hopefully I've given you some information here. You can take it back to your community, and hopefully everyone's a lot more safe. Thanks.
I'm not going to get into the weeds. I think the deputy just did that. He just explained to us a lot of the code. I'm looking at it from a simpler standpoint. We're out on the road, we're getting killed. And here's an example of what's killing us. The last legislative session down in Boise, a no cell phone, hands-free driving law was submitted to the legislature. It died in the Senate. The vote was 22 to 13 to kill it. That just happens to be the same vote that killed the anti-profiling law a year earlier, 22 to 13. That's just a sidelight. Here's an explanation of a North Idaho state senator as to why he voted against the bill for no cell phone usage. The people of the state of Idaho do not want to lose their ability to legally use their electronic devices. Whether it's safe or not by any technical definition, it's a moot point in my mind. Here's the kicker. If you don't believe me, the next time you pull up to an intersection and a stoplight, look around. That's all the evidence you need to know you can't fix stupid. These people are killing us. We've got to take a stand. You're all voters. You all ride motorcycles. We've got to change the law so the deputy has got a more clearly well-defined avenue for citations. How about the driver of a motor vehicle while sitting in the driver's seat shall not use any handheld electronic device of any kind for any use while the motor vehicle is in motion on a public roadway. How's that sound? It's simple. It's one sentence. You don't have to get into conversations about earbuds. You can't multitask with your eyeballs. You can't be looking at a phone and keeping your eyes on the road. So it's up to us to go to our legislators and make a point. You've got to take away the cell phone from the drivers of the automobiles. And with the penalty, Dwayne's got some ideas for the penalties on if you should be caught driving with a cell phone. But if you have an accident and you kill somebody, it ought to be felony manslaughter and take it from there. And I don't care if it's a cage or a motorcycle. Again, we've got to take this to our legislators. We've got to make them aware that we need protection. I'm all for personal responsibility. But like Ron White said, you can't fix stupid. So let's get it done. We shouldn't have to be here.
That's why he's my bodyguard. So, Representative Scott, you're next. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I'm that state representative you're talking about. So I'm Representative Heather Scott, North Idaho, Bonner, and Boundary counties. I'm going to stick to my notes a bit because I usually get in trouble if I get off on too much. So each day in the United States we have 9 people that are killed every day and 1,000 more that are injured due to distracted drivers. This 4th of July, we're going to have 48% of all distracted drivers are distracted because they're texting and driving. Whether it's reaching for a radio station or putting on a little makeup, as some of us women may need to do time and time again, we're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of being distracted while we drive. And if we're honest with ourselves, I think it's one thing when you're out on the bikes, but you guys drive cars too. And I'm guessing sometimes that phone rings and you're tempted to grab it. We're all guilty of it. It's the society we live in. It's the culture we live in. I always get nervous when people say, let's write more laws. If you don't know me, I'm one of the most conservative liberty legislators in Idaho. I've been in office 4 years and they hate me in Boise. And it's because I'm not about more laws and I'm not about, I look at Seattle. They just passed a law in Seattle now, no more plastic straws. I don't want to make Idaho like Seattle or like Washington.
But heroin dens are all right.
Yeah. So when you ask me what the answer is, I say we got to change our behavior. And, we always hear about education. You change your behavior by educating. And we do that by rallies like this. This is a great way, but we do it by teaching the kids too. I don't know what ABATE does in the schools. As parents, you should be showing your kids pictures of car accidents caused by texting and driving. You should show them what it's like a week in prison or a month in prison for involuntary manslaughter. And we probably do need to look at the code and beef it up and make sure that people are held accountable. But I don't know that we pass no texting and driving, no cell phones and driving. That's not going to change human behavior if we don't change the mindset of people. And that's kind of what I'm hoping today's all about, is a start to move in that direction. And you guys as motorcycle riders, there's accountability there too. You know what you're dealing with out there. Cars are never paying attention, and you have to police your own a bit. I had a guy just last week. I was just sitting in heavy traffic, and here comes a motorcycle right up the center line, just speeding up. I'm guessing none of you guys are like that, but those are the kind of things we need to stop. So I'm glad ABATE had me here today. I'm glad you're all out. What a great way to get together with like-minded people and let's start the conversations. I want to hear what we need to do in the law, some simple fixes that might help you guys and what you're dealing with. So thanks for having me out, and we'll keep on going.
Will you vote for stronger laws?
Thank you.
Ask her if she'll vote for stronger laws.
I don't know what you said, but we're moving on. Okay. There's a lot of things we can do to protect ourselves. First of all, you're all invisible on the road. We all know that. What's your next purchase going to be? All voters. In ABATE alone, we have 275 members. That's a voting block. If you look at all your people out here in Idaho or Washington, you can make a difference if you get out there and vote for the people who support the laws that protect you. Doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. It's about motorcycles, nothing else. That's what you got to remember. You got to study the candidates. You got to listen to them. You got to know what they're saying. Okay? Because if you get their attention, they will listen to you. A short story. Dave and I were just back in Washington, D.C. lobbying our national legislators. And they remembered us from the last 3 trips where nothing got done. They signed off co-sponsoring 2 bills already for us, which was a win-win for us out here. So it does work. You make an appointment to talk to them, they'll give you the 5 minutes. They will give it to you. Anybody can walk in and talk to them. You don't have to have a patch on your back or a suit. You can go up there in shorts and tennis shoes, even bright ones, and they will listen to you. this is kind of going to draw to a close here. I want to thank Curly's for helping us sponsor this year. Thank you, Tanya, for everything. For all the people on the forum, thank you for coming out in this wonderful weather. The wind died down. That was good. I'm just really impressed about how many people came out today. This is fantastic. You guys are great. Join ABATE, that helps us. Join the MRF, that's even better, because that helps us promote what we're working on, and that's state and national laws to protect you as writers. Get involved. You will be rewarded like you've never been rewarded when you see something like this come out. It makes you feel very, very good. But thanks to Tanya, to Lawrence's, to M6, to Lone Wolf for helping promote this around. For all of you for sharing all my pages I put out there. God, you got to be getting bored with that. We'll go back to talking about dogs now instead. So, but does anybody else have anything to say?
I'd like to say something, if you don't mind. Sure.
We're going to make you walk all the way up here, too. Oh, and you're an ABATE member. Good for you. Here you go.
My name's Scott Robinson. I'm from Washington ABATE, and rode a couple hundred miles to be here. I got here a little bit late, but you know, we're doing the same thing you guys are doing over here, and it's tough. They're telling us they don't want to create any more felonies to stop what's happening with the accidents and whatnot. One of the things that we're going to be doing this year in Washington, you know, we always go in and we get the handshake and we sit down with the legislators, we sit and talk. I've been doing it for 10 years now, and it always ends the same way. I walk out of there with a little smoke coming out of my backside, and nothing changes, okay? And we have decided that we're going to have to vote on this a little later on, but we figure out if we could do a legal protest, we'll be noticed in the media, okay? So you can file for a protest. We did it last year. It worked really well. Our membership went over 200 people in about a month's time. You file for the protest. When you do that, all the news agencies are notified that you're having a protest. They all showed up. We had King 5 there. We had Cairo there. We had all the news agencies were there. And then we had some delegated speaking people who did a good job of talking. And it was on the 6 o'clock news that they wouldn't give us the hearing for lane sharing. It means a lot. A lot of other motorcyclists see it, and it's something you guys might want to look into. We're just trying to find another angle to make something happen in Washington State also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David Washington. Okay, thank you. So, without further ado, this pony show is over, and thank you all for coming out. And keep watching my Facebook page. I'll keep making posts on what's changing and what's happening. And vote for the candidate of your choice that supports your motorcycle rights. Thank you.